My name is Bernardo Nimne. I am a Liberian who is currently studying in Morocco. And obviously, as you may know, I am serving as today's moderator for the AfCFTA Course 2.0 training. And I'd like to welcome everyone, every participant. Please note that this is a very important session. And so if you have your friends, you can also encourage them to join in the subsequent training sessions and even today. And so we're just going to move straight forward to our etiquette, things that you have to know why we go through this training. And so I'll just glance through it. When you enter the short course on Zoom, make sure you are on mute. Remain on mute throughout the round table. Enter your camera, ensure that your camera is off. Also, type your questions or comments in the chat box. Only in parentheses, be aware that your name must be put in and as well as your country. Those who questions and comments as a letter will be asked to unmute and speak. In parentheses, participants may open camera if called upon. So based on the request from the moderator, you will be called upon to open up your camera. If you are asked to speak, you must introduce yourself by name and country only, please, and then repeat the questions or comments you have written. So we move forward. The next is our partners, and we like to give acknowledgement to our partners. Today's training, as you may be aware, we have several partners which include the AfCFTA Secretariat, UNECA, UNDP, Afrimex Bank, and ITC. The objective of the AfCFTA short course sorry for the interruption. The objective of the AfCFTA short course 2.0 is to change and inspire dynamic community or budget entrepreneurs eager to delve into the intricacies of cross-border trade in Africa and equip themselves with practical tools, expert training, and invaluable insights to navigate and thrive within the AfCFTA framework. So we move forward to the learning outcome. About the short course, the learning outcome, participants understand the African Continental Free Trade Area and its instruments, providing them with the much needed insight so they are able to to leverage the opportunities presented by it. Participants are equipped with the necessary skills to envision cross-border opportunities in the implementation of their business or social enterprises. Participants are exposed to the opportunities available to them through capacity development and promote intra-African trade in goods and services. Participants are introduced to potential partners that will help them enable the development of their businesses. So, for those of you who were not here, or for those who have been here from the beginning, we began with Module 1, May 29, AfCFTA Secretariat facilitated that training, understanding how to trade under the AfCFTA Agreement and Protocol on Women and Youth in Trade. Module 2, June 26, UNECA, fast-tracking AfCFTA implementation, taking youth into consideration, youth engagement in AfCFTA. Module 3, July 24, which happened to be today by the UNDP. This training is being facilitated by UNDP, the African Services Market created by the AfCFTA Opportunities and Strategies for Market Access. Module 4, August 21, which is next month. August 21 will be facilitated by Afrimix Bank, accessing financing for cross-border trade under the AfCFTA. Module next. So, Module 1, May 29, AfCFTA Secretariat under the theme Understanding How to Trade under the AfCFTA Agreement and Protocol on Women and Youth. The overall objective is to inspire and empower young leaders and entrepreneurs to take full advantage of the opportunities afforded by AfCFTA with a particular focus on innovation, cross-border collaboration, and sustainable development. The specific objectives are equip young entrepreneurs with an in-depth understanding of the AfCFTA agreement, the protocol on women and youth, trade, and the AfCFTA operation tools. Highlight how these frameworks can be an advantage in promoting entrepreneurship and employment among young people in Africa. Explore the mechanism by which AfCFTA facilitates market access, improves trade, competitiveness, and support skills development, particularly specific policies and initiatives designed to enhance the economic participation of young people. And this is conducted by the AfCFTA Secretariat. Module 2, which was on June 26 and facilitated by UNECA, under the theme Fast Tracking AfCFTA Implementation, taking youth into consideration with engagement in the AfCFTA. The ECA, through the African Trade Policy Center, is collaborating with the Youth Alliance for Leadership and Development in Africa, YALDA, to support youth participation in AfCFTA implementation. The UMOJA Africa campaign, a virtual capacity building program, aims to equip young entrepreneurs with the skills and knowledge needed to leverage the AfCFTA effectively. Under the Umoja Africa campaign, ATPC will conduct capacity building sessions focused on fast-tracking AfCFTA implementation with a youth-centric approach. The module titled Fast-Tracking AfCFTA Implementation, taking youth into consideration, will assess the progress of AfCFTA implementation, identify challenges and opportunities for youth participation, and provide practical guidance for SMEs and youth entrepreneurs to maximize benefits from the trade agreement. Module 3, July 24, which happened to be today, UNDP, which happened to be the facilitator as well, the African services market created by the AfCFTA opportunities and strategies for market access. The AfCFTA aims to stimulate African economic growth by integrating markets, reducing trade barriers, and enhancing competitiveness across the continent, services sectors, and drivers of economic growth and diversification in Africa, accounting for a significant portion of employment and trade. The module is designed to unpack opportunities for intra-African trade in services. Key learning outcomes and discussion points would center on understanding how to trade services in the AfCFTA, exploring potential benefits and challenges, and strategizing how youth-led enterprises can drive in a liberalized service market. Program learning objective. This version of the AfCFTA
Banana, thank you so much for your presentation. We will move on to the UNDP presentation, please. In the interest of time, we will move on to the UNDP presentation. Thank you very much. Nozipo and team, over to you. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Laone. Can I just share from my side? I'm just going to ask for confirmation if my presentation is visible.
Yes, it is. It is visible. You can move on.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Perfect. Good evening, everyone. My name is Nozipo Hlope. I am with the UNDP Regional Service Center team, a fellow on AfCFTA. I'm joined by my colleague Ifi, who is a specialist on AfCFTA, and our advisor Gomi, who's also on the call. I'll later also call in my colleague Lillian, who will speak on the enablement and opportunities within the Timbuktu space and how that helps the services sector under the AfCFTA. We're also joined by Guguletu Sisu, who is an entrepreneur within this particular sector. So I'm going to firstly take you through the African services market created by AfCFTA. We'll be talking opportunities and strategies, and then we'll dive into the questions. So please make sure that you're all up and ready. I hope you're energized. I will try to be as concise as possible because I am aware that it's actually late for some of us at night. So please bear with me as I take you through my presentation. So Give me a moment. I just need to do this. Perfect. So why do we believe that services are so dynamic, and why are services important, right? What we need to understand is that services support different stages of value chains within various sectors. For example, it's supported from the production development or the product development right through to the sale of the product. And why I say this is that we'll take an example, for instance, the coffee industry. In our first value, let me just do my pointer. So, okay, cool. So in our product development, what the service would come out to be here is, for instance, agricultural expansion services, right? A company like TechnoServe would offer its training to farmers in Ethiopia, for instance, teaching them about improved farming techniques and sustainable practices, whether it be pest control and so forth. And then when we move right over to what some would call processing or manufacturing, the service that would be prominent there is quality control and testing services. We might borrow these from other countries, giving them their products, giving them rather our coffee bean products, to ask them to test them in our laboratory to ensure that they are up to standards and qualify in the international market. We'd also move on now to our distribution. This would be, the service would be logistics or transportation, which is widely offered by companies like DHL to ensure that they're able to transport our goods and services timely and safely to our global markets. And then when we move to the sales component of it, what would be assisting in this is the marketing and sales component that comes through. An example I'd make is an agency in Kenya might work with a local cooperatives who actually produce coffee beans, and ensuring that they're able to help them with their storyline and highlight the essence of the story behind creating or farming these coffee beans, which is what we'll sell to the market, and that in itself is a service. And then we'd move over right to the last end of it, where it is distributed across to retail. And the importance is then seen in how the customers actually receive this product. We see that Starbucks does it really well by providing their customers online platforms and physical stores in order for them to be able to access their products. How do we classify these services that we speak of, right? We have the 12 classifications that you can find on the WTO website called the General, well, this is a treaty of, it's called the General Agreement of the Trade and Services, GATS. And it defines our services sector according to what you would see as the 12, from your business professionals. We can move right along to your construction, whether it be energy services, right through to your tourism services that we all utilize and might not be aware that it's actually a service in itself. We'll then move through to what trade looks like from an African perspective, and seeing that there are different components within these services, being your traditional services that we might receive, our transportation, our travel, our maintenance. And then we have our knowledge intensive services, which would be your manufacturing services, construction services, finance, and so forth. And then you have your non-market services, which would be your government goods and services. And this just shows you the distribution of how it is traded within Africa and outside of Africa. Sorry, can you just mute on your side? Thank you very much. Yeah. And then opportunities in AfCFTA for the service sector. I mean, I believe we all know, as we were shown in the YALDA presentation earlier on, that the service trade has a potential to be a major driver in economic growth and development. And why I say this is that then it is seen that trade becomes an important component within the African continental free trade area. So under the AfCFTA, state parties seek to create a single liberalized market for services. It is embedded in an article that specifically focuses on enhancing the export capabilities our formal and informal sectors. We know that Africa largely has a huge informal sector, and emphasizing the micro, small, and medium operators, particularly women and children. So as the youth, how do we make sure that we leverage on this and use it to our advantage, right? This is set to create a new trading and entrepreneurial opportunities, like I said, for us as young Africans. I'll then move over to saying, here's this protocol that exists, right? Then before we move on to how we practically liberalize it, we will speak to the 4 modes of how services can be supplied, right? We've established that the rules of liberalizing trade in Africa between state parties is trying to help us, and not only tries to help us, but aims to boost intra-Africa trade in services. And like I had said prior, make sure that us as the youth are also able to leverage off of this. And this is done based on the 4 modes of supply. Your first mode of supply would be your cross-border supply. You have a consulting company, say in Kenya, an IT consulting service that provides its services to Nigeria without any physical presence in Nigeria. So this means the service flows from one territory of a member state into another without necessarily its physical presence in that. Our second mode would be our consumption abroad. Myself, an example, as a South African person who traveled abroad to Egypt to pursue an education, this means I also get to benefit from the facilities and the resources of that Egypt university. The third mode would be our commercial presence. Let's take, for instance, a Ghanaian bank opens a subsidiary bank in Cote d'Ivoire, and this bank operates as a local entity, providing financial solutions holistically for the clientele in Cote d'Ivoire. So this means from private advisory, advising on their businesses, how they can invest, how they can open up savings account, from your simpler to your most complex solutions that are needed. I'll then move over to our last and our 4th mode, which is the presence of natural persons. And we've seen this happen a lot, particularly in the healthcare center. You'll find a health profession from Senegal who works in Rwanda in the medical industry and provides their services to Rwandan nationals, whether this be through consultation or be it through working for an international healthcare company in Rwanda. Yes, sorry, Laone?
Please go ahead, Nozi.
Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
All right, thank you very much. Just grab my sip of water. So the AfCFTA protocol and trade and services establishes its rules in, like I said, creating rules between state parties in order to be able to liberalize our services, right? And this can be seen, firstly, these are the key components and mechanisms that are used to enhance the market access, the competition, and the efficiency. Over and above that, it is also done to ensure that it protects consumers who are at the user end of these services that are provided. How it does that is through these, some of these actually key elements that are showcased on the slide, right? We'll take, for instance, market access, removing barriers, eliminating or reducing restrictions on foreign services and providers such as quotas, licensing requirements, and other barriers to entry. And then we'll also take, for instance, regulatory transparency. You know, having clear regulations and transparent regulations will help in developing and maintaining transparent regulations that are publicly accessible to all people. And what I mean about this is, if I have a particular business that I want to run as a South African in Kenya, what are the regulations? Can this business exist in that market? And what it is that I need to do in order for me to be able to establish my business within that territory? Is this information available for me online? Where do I find this information? And that's why we say regulatory transparency is one of the main elements and components that will enable this liberalization of services. Another one that I actually once spoke to an entrepreneur about is dispute resolution, right? Mechanisms, mechanisms and procedures, establishing clear and fair procedures in resolving disputes. And if you think about it, if you're providing a service for me in a different region, how do I then dispute it? How much money will it take me? Are there any measures put in place in order for me to be able to dispute such things? And are the processes seamless, or will it cost me more money than the service that I was actually trying to attain from the beginning, which can be a discouraging factor? I'll then move over to saying these are the 5 priority sectors that have been identified for liberalization, which would be your business services, communication, finance, transport, and our tourism services, right? There are additional 7 sectors that are progressively being liberalized over the years. I'd then like to highlight or make an example about a product that we all love and make so much use of time and time again. And the thing is, there isn't much that changes about this particular product, but it is the consistency, the quality, and the experience overall that you receive when you are utilizing this product. We all know Apple, and we all know its unparalleled success with consumer products is not just due to its innovative hardware, but it's also because of the extensive ecosystem of services that are embedded and enable this product. You know, when I speak of embedded services, which are integral in the product and enhance its functionality, we speak of OIS that we all have to update every other month. We also speak of the built-in apps that you would only find in your iPhone and not necessarily on an Android phone, which creates that element of exclusivity when you engage with the product, you know. Would also go in and consider the embodied services. These can only be utilized when you have the product physically, right? This would be the App Store. You wouldn't go to an App Store or an Apple Store if you don't own the phone itself. You have your Apple Pay. You wouldn't have access to it if you didn't have the physical phone itself, and so forth. I mean, Apple Music and your TV plays and streaming. And what we need to realize is most of Apple's profit margins have been realized because as a result, rather, of their services. So do we see the African Continental Free Trade Area as a game changer in trade, particularly in our services in Africa? I'd just like to hear from the room. And if so, what do you think would be a prominent sector where we could actually lead? Just maybe 1 or 2 people on the floor.
Nosy, can you remind people that interpretation is available? Thank you.
Yes, I'm sorry about that, guys. I hope you're aware that interpretation in French is available. Can we kindly just confirm that it's working? Valencia, anybody?
Yes, it's working.
It is.
Okay.
It's working. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much, guys. So please do make use of it. Anybody from the room? Gomi, maybe you can tell us what you think, or which sector would you think would be a game changer for Africa in trade and services?
Look, I think one sector that is coming increasingly is, of course, the logistic, because when you talk about trading more within the continent, and of course, you have the logistics that will come on mind first. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Any takers? Just one more person. Lillian? I'm going to pick on you. So what sector do you think would be a game changer for us?
Can I respond to that? Yeah, so I'm sorry, I was trying to get my audio back on. I think the fintech sector is actually going to be a big game changer, especially in the area of digitalization. So that would be very useful.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else on the floor? Just one more?
I think the admin gave me permission to unmute myself. Can I go on?
Yes, you can.
Yeah, good. Thank you so much for your presentation. So for me, I feel like ICT, the digital world, and data, most people, it's embedded in the ICT and digital. So I feel like that's really going to be very drastic, make a very drastic change. So as to know, first of all, the data that will be collected, because everything you build would be on the data that has been collected. So I feel like, the ICT and digital will be very, very much useful.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I think I agree with you guys. One of the sectors that I also see leading is finance and banking. For an example, the mobile banking platforms like M-Pesa that is provided by Kenya. And we see one of the South African banks, Standard Bank, offering cross-cutting solutions for multiple businesses operating within the Africa sphere, right? Telecommunications, a Pan-African telecommunication that operates vastly like MTN. We also have Airtel that some of us might know of. And then your transport and logistics, obviously, we need to move these things around. So yeah, thank you for that. And then as we move on to hear more about the opportunities, the challenges, and the practicality of actually operating within this particular space, we'd like to hear from our entrepreneur who is currently within this particular sector. So I'm going to bring on Guguletu Siso. She is the CEO of Tumeza, a fintech that provides data-powered financing for supply chain sector, and it's based in South Africa. It uses a loan management platform, providing credit to small-scale transporters through distribution partnerships with logistics aggregators. So, Gugu, I'd like to hand over to you.
Great. Thank you so much for having me. Good evening, guys. I'm going to start my video, but I'll be very honest. My network is terrible. I think you may have seen that I've been dropping in and out for the past couple of minutes. So please bear with me. I'm just going to switch it off to make sure that I can actually be able to have a discussion with you guys.
No problem. Please let me know when I should move over to slide.
Yes,
Great.
I'd like to share my screen just quickly. Nozipo, if you could please just allow me, or if you have a copy, so that I can just have an illustration of the info or the discussion that I'm going to have.
Okay, is this okay, or would you like to slide from your side?
And I am now sharing. When was the last time I was on Zoom? Hide. Yes, view gallery. How do I do this? Okay, guys. Can you see my screen? Hello?
Yes, you can.
Yes, we can.
Yes. I want to confirm.
Yes,
We can see it, Gugu.
Hello, can you not hear me?
Yes, Gugu.
You are audible.
We can hear you.
And it's visible as well.
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you clearly.
I seem like I cannot quite hear anyone. Let me switch off my headset. It's better. Hello?
Yes,
I
We'll have Gugu back in the room shortly.
Testing, testing.
Yes, you are audible, Shiso.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Nimeli. I can hear you. My apologies, guys. I'm currently calling you in from the lovely streets of Harare. But unfortunately, it seems like our network provider decided that they do not want to provide us with the service offer, which is very ironic, especially looking at the fact that we're talking about the services market in Africa. So that's definitely one of the things that I'm guessing needs to be fixed in order for us to be able to grow. So as Nozi had given a quick intro, my name is Kukuletu Siso, and I'm the CEO as well as the co-founder of Tumeza. However, please feel free to call me Gugu. Tumeza is a fintech that uses a loan management platform to provide credit to the logistics sector. So as already described, we do this through channeling our funds through logistics aggregators as well as FMCG companies, allowing us to quickly disperse as well as, most importantly, collect funds back from our small-scale transporters. We're headquartered in South Africa, Johannesburg, and are certified as a microfinancier by the National Credit Regulator of South Africa as of 2022. Great, so that's us, and that is me in a nutshell. I would say this, just to give you a bit of a background. We started off from Zimbabwe as a logistics company. So when Nozipo was giving you a bit of, I think in the initial presentation, she was mentioning some of the industries that are quite integral, I think, for Africa's growth. And the ones that really stood out for me were logistics, finance, as well as the digital space. The three areas that are active in. So we started off as a logistics company, right, with clients such as Pick and Pay, right? First, we could not access working capital financing from the financing from the finance sector. This is purely because we were largely dependent on outsourcing. So think of it as something such as an Uber freight model, right? In essence, you do not own the vast majority of the trucks, and you're seen as high risk because if anything happens, what kind of collateral are we able to get back from you as a financial institution, right? So with that in mind, we then decided to pivot to now start solving the problem that put us under, which in essence was a lack of working capital, which is how Tumeza Finance was born. Nozi, your screen is gone. Right. Yes, we're back. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. It's weird. It's like a lecture. Everyone is quiet and I can't see anyone. So I'm like, I'm speaking to a black hole. Anyway, so pivoted into being a fintech, in essence, solving the problem that put us under, right? Since then, as of 2023, we've been able to disperse over $2.3 million US. I think as of this year, we've hit about the $3 million mark. So yay us. And we had clients in Botswana, South Africa, Kenya, as well as Uganda, which I think was a big win, especially looking at the fact that we started off in Zimbabwe. And then quickly expanded into those particular territories. So our clients counted guys such as FMCG companies such as Spar, Pick and Pay, as well as really exciting startups such as Lorry Systems, RightLink in Kenya, InPost in Kenya, RightLink in Uganda, InPost in Kenya, as well as Lorry Systems in Kenya, to name a few. As well as, most importantly, I think there was a previous contributor who had indicated that data is one of the things that we need as a continent. You need to know what's going on in order for you to be able to make a decision that will not only impact your business, as well as decisions that will also impact other service providers that depend or that you depend upon as a business. So this was very exciting for us, as we're able to collect a lot of data on what was going on, not just in South Africa, but as well as on the African continent, such as from our clients such as RightLink, right? They bring in goods from the port of Mombasa and then take them into Uganda. So able to kind of get a look of what exactly is the flow of goods on the continent, and realistically, who are the major players, right? Is it the small guys, or is this market dominated by the larger guys? And if it's so, how exactly can we now adjust to be able to take advantage of it? So that is me being able to share with you guys our wins, right? It sounds really good. So how we did it is, I'll be very honest, we just decided to focus on solving a problem that was extremely familiar to us. So case in point, as I'd said, we're solving the problem that put us under, which was a lack of capital for logistics players. There was nothing really fancy about it. I'll be very honest, we did not put AI. It was just how exactly do we solve this problem? So we then built on top of it to say, okay, cool. The easiest way to do this is through a digital platform, because you're able to scale your solution relatively quickly without needing physical infrastructure. The second one was leaning on existing relationships in order to build strong partnerships. So one of the stories that really made us, I think, for our anchor client in the rest of Africa, which was Kenya, we got the partnership with Lorry Systems because one of our investors at that time was friends with the Lorry Systems CEO. So you see how we were able to quickly cut down through this whole B2B sales funnel of, I'm sure you guys are familiar that B2B sales is quite notorious for being quite long. But the fact that we had a connection through these two individuals, one, we're able to know if the client needed our services at all, because there's always the huge risk that you talk to someone for 6 months only to be told that, hey, you know what, we love the solution, we just don't need it, right? So one, we're able to ascertain that they needed our solution, and two, that they were quickly able to ascertain as well that the negotiations made sense, not just for them, but most importantly for us within a relatively short period of time. So within a month, I think from first contact, we're able to disperse our very first check, which, as I mentioned, is something that would not be possible if we did not have that prior relationship. So I'd strongly urge that any relationship that you need for whatever business you have, should it be being able to net clients, being able to net advice, lean on the relationship. Even if it's someone that you know randomly on LinkedIn, I would say make sure that you reach out and don't feel any shame. Shame is how people go hungry. I think I also mentioned the resistance part, and then the last part is just do it as well as ask for forgiveness later. I think we tend to get a bit scared by, regulatory mechanisms to say, okay, I need to first get this particular paperwork in place first before I even do anything. So I think the kind of energy that one needs, especially in the startup space, is to say, as long as you're not going to land in jail, right? Try and test out your solution within a very small part of the market so that you know if your solution is even needed, because at the end of the day, you're going to go through all these hoops of getting your regulatory paperwork in place, only to figure out later on that no one actually needs your solution and you're not going to make money out of it. Bearing in mind that, that paperwork is also quite expensive. You don't want to be in the hole without even figuring out if anyone even needs your solution. So one of the things that I like to tell people these days is it's easier to ask for forgiveness than it is to ask for permission, as long as you're not going to land in jail. This is me talking to you as someone that is, an entrepreneur and has been in your shoes, or is truly in your shoes as well. I'm sure there are people that are extremely successful right now. This would not be a presentation if I also did not share some of the lessons that we have learned. So of the countries that you've seen on screen right now, South Africa, Botswana, Kenya, and Uganda, I'm very, very honest that we have kind of gone back to South Africa, as we have seen flames within the Kenyan and Ugandan markets. And this is purely because of faulty dispute mechanisms in those two countries that have kind of led us to kind of go back. So I would say there's, whilst it's great, to push for expansion across Africa, there are certain foundational frameworks that need to be in place before you even set foot in that particular market, right? So one of the things that I've realized in hindsight is gossip. You need to know exactly how that market is from a practical perspective, right? So having conversations with not just locals, but having conversation with foreigners who are already active in those markets will save you a lot of trouble, right? So it's you know, having a conversation right now, let's say you're trying to get into the Kenyan market, right? You call up a friend or anyone that you know who's a foreigner, and they're to say, okay, realistically, what are the hurdles that you're facing right now? One, from a banking perspective, from an immigration perspective, because bear in mind, you're going to have to go there at some time in order to set up a relationship, paperwork or whatever. You're going to have to get there physically at some point. Even if you have to do it once, you have to get there. As well as what is the energy around the people there, right? Are people going to lie to you? You know, do they take a handshake agreement seriously? Or is this something where someone will say, oh, yeah, we've agreed. The next thing you know, you've been, hoodwinked 6 months later, right? So I'd say corporate gossip, or as they call it, corporate information, is one of the foundational blocks that you need to put in place before you even decide to put a cent into that particular market. I've also realized that Africa is very big. How people conduct business in your country, as well as how people conduct business in the country that you're targeting, are two very different things. So I'd really like to emphasize that, so that if you can, please just do that. Know exactly what you're getting into. The second part is expansion is extremely expensive, especially across the continent. So one of the things that I like to point out is legal services. You need to have a good lawyer, and a good lawyer that is your friend. Because when things go wrong extremely fast and extremely badly. I like to term it as a marriage, right? You get into marriage with the best intentions, but the person that you're getting into a marriage with is not the person that you're probably going to get divorced from. I may not know, as I'm speaking as someone who's currently not married, but from cases that I've seen with friends that are going through divorces, it tends to be extremely acrimonious, and the smiles that you got into that situation with turn into frowns very quickly. So I'd say getting that legal paperwork in place at the very beginning is something that you need to do. Trying to convince someone to sign additional paperwork after the fact is not something that is easily done. Second point, things such as accounting services, because bear in mind, if you're HQ'd in another country and you've got services, or you're doing work in another country, you need to be able to understand taxation implications. What exactly does this mean? Am I able to remit the profits back to my home country without having to actually declare it in this local country? Or if not, what does this mean? Do I need to now register for tax? How do I now register, as well as make sure that I'm minimizing the taxation so that it's a less of a burden for me as a business? So as you sit down and start ticking off the boxes that you need to do in order to actually do business well, you quickly realize that it's quite an expensive process, and it's something that you need to budget for, and you need to budget for extremely pragmatically, right? You can't say that just because you are running an online business that you will not need these services. Unfortunately, you will. And you will quite quickly, more than you think you do. So I'd say, in the interest of time, these are experiences that I've learned, right? We've gone back to South Africa. We still have clients in those particular areas, but we'll be going back more cautiously, as well as making sure that we have enough resources, as well as the information that we need in order to be able to make the decisions that we'll need to make sure that we make the most amount of money while spending the least amount of money at the end of the day. So I think I'll just open it up to the floor. I don't like lecturing people. I think conversations are better.
Thank you so much for that presentation, Gugu. I'd just like to take guidance from my colleagues. Would you like us to wrap up all the presentations and take questions at the end of the session? Or would you like us to open up a space for conversations now? Lillian Gomi, I'll take your guidance. And Gugu?
I will suggest maybe you go with Lillian, since it's quite interlinked. Then we come back later to all. Thanks.
All right. Thank you.
Sure.
So next up, Thank you for that, firstly, Gugu. I think it was insightful for myself too, who is an entrepreneur and still in the early stages. I think there's so many big learnings that I've taken from you, and I'm still yet to take from you because I'll be knocking on your door. But I think what's important is when you highlight that we must put shame aside because people go hungry because of shame is one thing that I'll definitely always keep in mind. So now we're going to move forward to understanding what are the opportunities and the enablers within our space. So next up, I have Ms. Lillian, who currently serves as a special advisor to the executive secretary of the Timbuktu Africa Innovation Foundation on an interim basis, using her extensive experience to advise development across Africa. Previously, Ms. Lillian was a key member of the Timbuktu team in New York, serving as a program and coordination specialist. She played a pivotal role in the initiative's registration, incorporation, and inauguration. So if I were you, I'd listen up to see what are the opportunities that we have in this space, how can we utilize them to advance ourselves as entrepreneurs, and how can we milk her of all this information that she has. So I'm going to hand it over to my colleague Lillian, who will take us through the work that they do alongside her team. Over to you, Lillian.
Thank you so much, Nizipo. And was really great listening to Google. I'm super excited to be here. I think this is very, very much timely to have these discussions with you. So I think I would like to start, but I'll start by sharing a video with you. But even before that, I'd like to apologize beforehand that I'm going to be traveling through 2 presentations just to sort of like help you get a sense of what we do in UNDP, precisely what we're going to be doing, supporting an initiative called Timbuktu. So I would jump right into the video. Please, Nozipo, can you give me access to sharing my screen? I say I have that. Okay, so I'm going to, just a second before I do this video. Okay, yeah, so I'm going to be sharing my screen. Can you see my screen, colleagues?
Not yet, Lillian.
Okay, so one sec again. Okay, so yeah. Can you see my screen now? Colleagues,
Yes.
can you see my screen?
Yes, your screen is clear.
Okay, okay. So we'll drop right in.
I don't know if I'm the only one, but I cannot hear the audio of your video. So maybe can you reshare it again with audio?
Okay, so, but can you hear me at least?
Yes, I can definitely hear you.
Okay, so I'm going to try to present it and then I'll play it just so we can see if we can hear ourselves. Okay, so we have nest. Yeah. And then we go and play. Can you hear it now?
No.
No.
Okay, so I apologize for that. Nazika, I'm going to quickly share this slide with you on the Outlook, and then you can play it from your end, I hope. And right after that, we'll get into the presentation properly. My apologies, colleagues, for this. Just a few moments.
Lillian, it's possible that because you are using a headphone, isn't that you are only the one listening to what you are playing? But let's colleagues also share and see.
Just as Nozipo said, you have to share your screen but share with sound. There's a selection there on Zoom where sharing, you have to select share with sound, then your video will play okay. You can just reshare again, but share now with sound.
Lillian, can you hear us?
Yes, absolutely, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Perfectly.
Okay, so I've just sent it to you, Nozika, but here again, I'm also thinking maybe I just go ahead with the presentation while you're trying to open it from your end, and then we could have that video play towards the end. Let me see.
Lillian, if you can hear me, call me here. Maybe you can do your presentation and we will try the video later.
Absolutely, yes. That is exactly what
okay.
That's exactly what I would do.
Okay.
So can you let me go straight into the presentation. Can you still see my screen?
Not yet, but please do share.
Okay. Oof, apologies. Okay. Apologies, colleagues. Can you see my screen now? I hate to be in this type of position, but here we go with Timbuktu. So Timbuktu, it's an initiative that is being supported by the UNDP, and it prides itself as the largest initiative to support startup innovation ecosystem in Africa. Currently, the name Timbuktu was coined from the Timbuktu city that was established in the 1830s. And it's also famous for Mansa Musa, who we know to be very prominent back in the days as the richest man that ever lived. And also because of his strength in trying to establish Mali to become a vibrant cultural scene, and also a world-class learning outfit where we had so many scholars benefiting from that great leadership that he had. And so that sort of like formed a sense for why we came up with the name Timbuktu, because what we hope to achieve is to disrupt the current existing ecosystem in a very positive light and see how we can be able to strengthen fragmented systems within the startup and innovation space. How do we plan to do that is going to be precisely my next slide. So we're looking at areas such as innovation, acceleration, as well as catalytic capital. We have a program under the Timbuktu initiative that sort of like is branched in 4 pillars. We have the Timbuktu African Innovation Foundation, which I currently support the executive secretary as the special advisor. We also have an area for which UNDP comes under the platform to provide advisory support to Timbuktu, which is now the foundation. And then we have a robust ambition to service innovation and startup solutions across Africa in 10 thematic focused areas, which we like to call center of excellence. And in that, what I specifically mean is that we're trying to support thematic focused areas such as fintech, health tech, agri-tech, mind tech, and the list is endless, including creatives that we're looking to support specifically in in South Africa. And for this purpose, we have also identified specific regions where we'll be instituting world-class hubs that are going to serve as center of excellence throughout the African continent, but they are going to be domiciled in this specific region. So in more simpler terms, I'm going to explain it in such a way that you can easily grasp it. And that is, for example, we're talking about the health tech that is going to be situated in Kigali, Rwanda. And we're having the fintech, which is the video I just wanted to play. It was recently launched last month, less than a month, 30 days now. And it was launched in Lagos, where we'll be supporting Pan-African fintech innovation solutions across Africa and to the world. But then it's going to be inspired by African young entrepreneurs, which we're going to engage from their ideation stage up until the minimum viable product stage of their products. And then we link them also with the markets so that it becomes a simplified mechanism for them to scale up their businesses. And I draw another pointer from this case in mind, which is the Google case. Google, I'm going to pull you into this conversation. It is how she had explained from a first-hand entrepreneur perspective, all of the challenges that she had to go through, the legal and regulatory demands that she had to make sure she sort of like got a full understanding before engaging in a new, market environment. So Timbuktu here aims to provide those services that can be able to help you accelerate your innovation type of dream, right? And so under the 4 frameworks which I was talking about, which is the foundation, we have the UNDP advisory support elements or aspects. And then we also have the thematic hubs, which we're aiming to be 10 thematic hubs. And we lastly have what we call the uniports. And these uniports are our own instrument for identifying young innovators from the university environment where they are still fresh, untapped, and also unguided. So we want to hear your ideas. We want to set up a space where you sort of like try your ideas, get trainings, get mentorship, begin to push that ideas from just the mere frame in your mind into something written on paper, and even beyond that, giving you the right type of training that helps you to sort of like create a prototype of some sort that has to go through the next stage, which is the tech hubs we have created.
Lillian, a
can
quick
you hear me?
You are not your slide. Can you put it on slide mode, full screen?
I'll do that. I'll do that. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, so, sorry, one sec. Sorry, why I'm trying to do that, because I'm also slideshow. Sorry. No, sorry, I just saw that, yeah. Oof, we're still on our video. Komi, you might want to give me some time here to just quickly do that. From the start, and then, okay. So I'm going to go to the beginning. Okay, yeah. So it's better now, right, Komi? Do you have a better view of this?
No, we can't see I cannot see the screen from my end anymore.
Can anyone see the screen?
No, Lillian, I also can't see it from my side. Can you maybe just try resharing again? Options advice.
I'm coming, just one sec. And show.
And then when you select the share, can you maybe just also select share with sound so that we can try and play the video again?
Okay. So. See, I'm sharing my screen. Share sound. Okay,
Yeah.
that makes a lot of, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to, is it okay for me to begin the video just so we see it, or I should go ahead with the presentation?
Anything you're comfortable with, Lillian, we'll take your guidance.
Okay, so perhaps I go with the video just so you get a sense of it, and then we can come back to this discussion.
Okay.
Yes, thanks.
Can you just put it on presentation mode?
Of course.
Yeah, sound.
Can you see it?
Yes, and we can hear the sound perfectly. Thank you.
Okay, so we're beginning from the start. Yeah.
Good morning and welcome to the launch of the Lagos Innovation Center and most notably the FinTech Hub of Timbuktu.
Lagos, the FinTech capital of Africa, is about to lead an extraordinary transformation.
This generation will solve the world's biggest problems, but the role of the enablers is critical.
If you are a cohort, stand up please and come join me on the stage here.
Great things are never done by one person. Great things are done by a team.
Exciting moment today that the Nigeria UNDP team has given us, which is to see the evolution of Timbuktu in execution form.
And it's also a double celebration for us because we brought in 42 fintech startups all over the world from 32 African countries.
It is super exciting to launch the first vertical thematic hub under the Timbuktu ecosystem of the largest innovation facility in the history of the African continent.
Timbuktu! Timbuktu for Africa. Timbuktu is the future.
Yes, amazing. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, and was that inspiring enough for you? Because I know in this room, we have a lot of people asking questions. I've heard about Timbuktu. What is this really? That is just a snippet of what Timbuktu aims to achieve across the African ecosystem. And you can see big players on board bringing in their expertise, bringing in their resources to see how they can really contribute to the transformative growth that we're hoping to achieve under this robust initiative. Which brings me back to what I was saying about Timbuktu, how we aim to be able to contribute and strengthen the already existing ecosystem of innovators and startup founders. Also to see how we can be able to sort of like solidify the fragmented ecosystem that we currently know as the picture today. We hope to do this through the Unipods, which I had mentioned. It's a space where young people can be inspired to form ideas and also take that ideas from that stage into MVP level, which is the minimum viable products. And that would happen only through the support of an enabling environment. In this case, Timbuktu becomes one of the enablers in the ecosystem that would allow for them to test their products, test their ideas, go through different stages of training, mentorship, boot camps, as well as incubation and acceleration processes. And once that idea has moved from the stage where it is still being formulated into a minimum viable product, we then provide a support, additional support, which would, of course, help them to transition into a stage of sort of like market-ready businesses. And where do we do that? We do that in the thematic hubs. So we like to call the hubs the big brothers of the Unipod. The Unipod is actually just one pipeline, which we hope to be able to generate the startups or intending on emerging entrepreneurs. However, we are still open to getting startups who are already maybe having independent testing or having independent products to come into the hubs and also receive the support that we're going to be providing for them as well. So we're talking about taking your ideas to market, preparing ventures for growth by addressing their businesses, technology, and impact models. Now, after the stage of those thematic hubs, what we aim to achieve is to sort of connect you with already existing, established businesses that are currently identified as maybe in champions of industry or giants of specific thematic areas of business. Say, for example, you just saw the Tony Elumelu founder and pioneer himself, Tony Elumelu Foundation, the pioneer, who is very keen to continue to support young entrepreneurs within the African system. Timbuktu is for Africans. It is the future of Africa. It has a Pan-African centric focus, and it only aims to inspire our innovation churning out from this African space by Africans and for Africans. There's a lot of African statements in what I have just said, but I want to bring you closely to the focus. Why are we even in this space as Timbuktu? The first thing is to actually accelerate innovations by strengthening existing fragmented ecosystem, like I said earlier. Another reason is to increase capacity and qualitative experience through mentoring, training, boot camping, putting you in a space like a sandbox environment, and also accelerator and incubator programs. As well as providing to you technical masterclass with experts, industry experts. And then what is the third big reason for us? It is de-risking early stage capital loss through providing a blended catalytic and commercial capital framework that allows for you to get financial support and instruments for your emerging business. And we also, through our niche as UNDP, would be supporting you in some of the regulatory and legal frameworks that exist and that causes barriers to market. And just like the video had said, great things are done by a team. We are not a standalone initiative. We try to partner with other sister or synergistic institutions or organizations that are also promoting the same kind of environment and development that we aim to achieve in Africa. Take, for example, the AfCFTA. Say you've gone through all of these stages and you have a business that is viable, that is, disruptive, that is groundbreaking, and you're trying to launch out beyond your HQ, like Google was mentioning, she had to get back to South Africa because the other environments were not as profitable, as accommodating, as comfortable as what she's currently benefiting from South Africa. So AfCFTA, in collaboration with UNDP and also Timbuktu Initiative through its foundation, can provide some elements of support in that area where we're trying to get in touch with governments to speak on your behalf, in also providing instruments that allow for ease of regulatory and legal frameworks that exist. Another additional pointer to note is that we're building networks and also strengthening linkages. So you get into an environment where you're being charged to think differently. You know, you meet people who are doing things beyond what you're currently doing, and you're inspired to sort of like expand your scope. So that is another framework, that's another avenue that it will provide for you. We've had engagements with different partners, public and private sector. And then we've also tried to seek sort of like what we call the Timbuktu Policy Lab, where we are developing startup policies that would certainly address these regulatory challenges that I have mentioned across the continent and increase an enabling environment for innovators to thrive. Now, going back to the uniports, we aim to actually establish the uniports across Africa, precisely in the 54 countries in Africa. However, as of this point, we have been able to launch certain uniports in areas that, as you can see on display, and we're still about to launch even more in the areas you can see on green. Whereas we have just recently launched 7 uniports precisely in Nigeria, like you can see. We've also done the one in Gambia, and we also aim between now and the end of 2024 to continue to launch more uniports. This is our engagements with different strategic parastatals as well as corporations, just to see how we can be able to strengthen the collaborations with you know, organizations who are also in line with our focused area. This is the call for application that we had in June, specifically for the Lagos FinTech Hub. And as a result of this, we're able to get the ball rolling for, I'm going to stop my screen now, sorry. We're able to get the ball rolling for the launch of the FinTech Hub, which you just saw. So I'm going to share with you the second slide I had mentioned, and this will take us through another segment where we get a better understanding as to how Timbuktu aims to expand its niche and the thematic areas that it's very much focused on in trying to achieve this. So this is the...
Brilliant.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can I just ask that we spend 5 minutes on this so that we allow for questions from the audience as well?
Absolutely. Sorry, just stop share and then share this next one. This would be very quick because I need to... Yeah, okay. Sorry, one sec. Yes. So the mission of Timbuktu, like I had said, is to fix the fragmented ecosystem, build a Pan-African startup, provide early-stage risk capital that is more diffuse, domestic, and inclusive. Our moonshot is a 10-year project where we hope to raise $1 billion to support at least 10,000 startups and also help the startups, about 1,000 of them, to scale, which we hope would impact at least 100 million livelihoods and also create a value of $10 billion. These are our toolbox where I had mentioned the hubs, the foundation, which hosts the blended and catalytic and commercial fund, the Uniport, as well as UNDP's advisory support that it provides. This is the blended catalytic and commercial capital that we have sort of fragmented into two portions. We have the one that is going to be financed by the African Innovation Foundations, and this will be precisely to support that early stage de-risking element. And then once we have moved the startups and innovators businesses into minimum viable products, what we now aim to achieve is to get them is to get venture capitalists interested in their business and see how we can be able to scale from that point. These are the Uniports. I'm going to be showing you an example of the Uniport that currently exists. This is the Uganda University, where we have labs that support innovation, creative ideas across this university space, and it is open for all African innovators. It does not have limitation. Irrespective of the thematic area you're interested in, you can reach out to any of the Uniports and assess this intervention. This is another area where we're looking at creative electronic labs and also prototyping of the businesses. So this gives us an overview of what we are intending to achieve. Currently, we have launched the Lagos FinTech Hub. We hope to launch the Kigali first call for application, which will be focused on the health tech thematic area. That would happen precisely in August. And thereafter, we would have the launch of the facility. A little backstory about Timbuktu is that it was first launched in Davos in Switzerland early this year in January. Thereafter, we went to Kigali to register and inaugurate this idea, this Timbuktu initiative and foundation. And in this processes, we have richly benefited from the support of government. We have the president of Rwanda currently backing us on this project. We have the president of Ghana, as well as other high government drivers supporting us for this. We also have industry experts and influencers trying to support us as well. So one might want to ask why UNDP, but I think UNDP is such a rich organization, rich in the sense that it's got a lot of muscles and pulls a lot of weight to be able to engage far-reaching government institutions as well as networks. We also have a track record for credibility and legitimacy, which we can see over the years through our implementation of programs and initiatives like this. We also provide a clear pathway to access and scale, as well as we always aim to foster sustainability through our coalitions and partnerships. So we have, back to the story of great things are not done by one person. It has to be done.
The issue is the time. Can we wrap up maybe because of, so that we have more time for discussion? Because there are some questions.
Yes, I'm wrapping up now. I'm wrapping up now. So in concluding statement, I would like to say that Timbuktu is currently the future that is driving African startup and innovations. And I'm personally in love with the idea. I'm personally in love with the project. And I would like to welcome each and every one of you interested to please join in the Timbuktu initiative. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I'd like to ask that the floor start preparing their questions. But to start off, Lillian, I think what you ended with led me to this question to open up the floor, and I'd like you to answer it in the course of answering our members who are joining the call. So you told us why UNDP. As an entrepreneur, I'd be interested to know what's in it for UNDP. Do I get to keep the equity of my business? Am I going to be protected in terms of the IP of my solution? And how would you guys ensure that in as much as you're helping me scale up, I'm in this unipod, whether I'm in the accelerator lab, or whether I'm in the catalytic capital building, does my solution remain mine, and what is in it for UNDP? And Gugu, to start you off as well, and like Lillian, as we have hands that are lining up, you spoke to the importance of partnerships, right? And not only partnerships, but relationships. These networks and linkages will help us in our businesses in ways that we don't even imagine in the inception of our businesses. Do you think maybe as a solution, if we came together within similar sectors and created maybe associations, or if not associations, if you and I had the same idea to scale up, say, how do we then package it in a way that will have lesser costs, we'll be able to trade this in Africa, and maybe we can leverage off of each other's comparative advantages. So maybe you can give us also advice around that, and then I'm going to open up the floor to questions and also ask for me to assist me in selecting hands. And then maybe we'll take 5 hands at a time and then try to bring in, give rather our speakers and colleagues, myself included, a chance to answer questions, and then open it up for another round of questions. So the first 5 hands I'm going to take, I'm just going to ask that you be very concise, 2 minutes a question. I will be cutting if you go over 2 minutes. I apologize for this. This is to also allow the broader audience to also ask their questions. 2 minutes, introduce yourself and straight to your question. Maybe if you have a business, just let us know what you do in those 2 minutes. So I'm going to go with S, and please forgive me if I butcher your name. The first person I'm going to go with was S. Can you please mute if I have not pulled up your name?
Can those who are not talking, please, can you mute yourself? Those who are not talking, please. Thanks.
So I'm going to start with S and G, and then we're going to move over to Lloyd. And then I think those are our 2 hands for now. I'll just be on the lookout in the chat box as well. So you can go ahead and unmute S.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the question that you asked initially as to what the safety net is for entrepreneurs, because as we know, we have a long history of being exploited, and here at the cusp of becoming one of the biggest sort of, you know, we're at the cusp of an industrial age. It's so important that we maintain autonomy and that we don't repeat past mistakes. So I'm with Fashion Week in Gambia and also a consultancy firm. So it's services, fashion and tourism that I lead on. And so these are the areas where we're experiencing so much difficulty with some of the larger organizations, where we lose autonomy on projects and we gain credit for the larger organizations who then disappear. My question is, how long is the project for, and what is the back end and what will be left as the long-term plan for those in the ecosystem?
Thank you for that question. I'm assuming you're posing your question to how long is the Timbuktu project, so I know who to direct your question to.
Yes, for the Timbuktu project. And I'm here in the Gambian context, if that helps as well.
Thank you very much. Lloyd, I'll also take your question before we open up to colleagues to answer questions.
Good evening, and thank you so much again for the platform, observing our protocol. Yeah, so can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so okay, awesome. Just the platform as it's always been enlightening and insightful as well. With respect to my question is actually to the UNDP. I think it was Lillian, and as she was speaking, she mentioned something that really caught my attention, and which was obviously with respect to their. She mentioned a statement which was along the lines of during the early stage. What they do is they de-risk. So once you mention de-risk, my question to them is their processes, their actual structures that they've got in place or they're intending to put in place. What is what de-risking is that? As in, like, are you guys offering services that actually help de-risk for the investor? And if you're saying for de-risking, what type of, is it for the investor or for the startup founder?
Please,
Thank you for the question.
Before your response, to everyone who wants to ask questions, kindly identify the specific person you are throwing your question to, so that we will know to whom you are asking. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Martha, you can go ahead.
Can you hear me? Yes,
Yes,
can you hear me?
Perfect. Go ahead, yes.
My question is to Timbuktu. My question is about Timbuktu, I mean, sorry. I'm curious, I've noticed there that they're saying there'll be centers of excellence. That there'll be centers of excellence. And I was wondering, in East Africa, for instance, we have a lot of, we have centers of excellence regarding health in almost all the East African community countries. So is UNDP planning to work with them as well, or just specific centers of excellence? Yeah.
Nozi, there was also, I think when you were doing the presentation, there was a comment on the, I think, regulatory framework. So when responding, you may want to also touch slightly on the liberalization and I'm trying to get harmonization of regulation and standard. Regulation when it comes to services as well, movement of service and professionals. If you can come back during, it was previously in the notes. Thanks.
Oh, okay. Thank you for that, Komi. Do we have another question before I hand over to my colleague? I'm so sorry, Lillian. It seems like Timbuktu is the topic at hand. If there aren't any questions, I'll hand over to you, Lillian, to just address those questions, please.
Thank you so much, Nozipo. I'm actually just smiling because I think now than ever before, I think I must have really been speaking to entrepreneurs in this space, because the question, which is typical to every business person, is how do I benefit? So I'm pushing the question to you. I'm going to answer the question, but I'm also asking me now, how do I benefit? What is my benefit in all of this? Because that is what I'm picking from all of you here in this room. It's quite interesting. I was hoping would have more questions thrown to Google, because she's the one thriving in the space right now, but I see we still need more support coming from enablers, such as the organization I represent, Timbuktu. Just to make it very clear, UNDP is facilitating this Timbuktu initiative. However, Timbuktu is a concept, a program that is going to be fully managed by the Timbuktu African Innovation Foundation. And this is a common benefit foundation. So it brings me to the first question where I'm being asked, what is in it for Timbuktu? As we already know, what is in it for UNDP? As we already know, UNDP is an organization that seeks to support, promote impact as well as scale. So for UNDP, it is another story where we're trying to look into the ecosystem, identify a problem, and see how we can be able to design a solution or a framework that allows for solutions to begin to come up. So for UNDP, it is supporting young African startup innovators as well as entrepreneurs to get better outcome out of the business world that they are currently being challenged and faced with. It brings me also to the second question, do I get to keep my equity? Yes, of course, you get to keep your equity. And is the business mine? Completely. Yes, of course, it is yours completely. You have full rights for autonomy of the business. But I have to also explain that once you're getting support from UNDP from Timbuktu Foundation under its framework, you are also going to be, it's more like you're going to be nurtured to the point where you have a minimum viable product that allows you now to engage with VCs, which, as we already know, provide finances to expand your business. So it's like the Lion Den series, which we sometimes watch about startups and innovation, businesses. There you have people who are ready to invest because they see that you have a product that is scalable. And so it is on that ground, after we have helped to shape your idea into and nurtured you and your idea into a stage where it becomes a business that is attractive, then we provide opportunities for you to engage with the investors in the market. And then we allow you to test your product and thrive as a business. So the aim is for us to be able to sort of churn out more businesses that are tech-enabled and tech-driven into the ecosystem. So once we have been able to nurture you through these first stages, we're not asking you for anything. Then we can now allow you to play in that competitive market where you would already find existing businesses. I think that should have answered your question as to what is the need for UNDP. Also, how do we protect your intellectual property as well as autonomy? So like I had said earlier, it takes a village to build or to raise a child. And in that way, I'm saying we have partnerships with other corporations such as the AfCFTA. We have partnerships with WIPO as well as other UN institutions to see how we can be able to provide that needed support, because we understand the market. We understand that it is more difficult for beginners, and we're trying to see how we can be able to support eligible businesses and attractive businesses to the point where they can be able to scale. And by that, we mean speaking with government, negotiating with government to see how we can fine-tune regulations as well as legal frameworks that exist to be able to support your aim, your goal, your business. And then someone had asked me, how long is the program or project for, especially with a case study on the Gambia? I think you may have listened to me when I mentioned the Uniport. So for the Uniport, it exists, and it is for people who are just coming up, crafting their ideas, and then they go through all of those nurturing stages to when they become, they have a product that can now be even more fine-tuned in the thematic hubs. So the program is as long as you're able to get to this stage. But I think, of course, there will be a time frame, say, for example, maybe 6 months or a year for that product. But then the aim is really to help you transition from that ideation stage into MVP. And then we also had a question around de-risking, early stage de-risking. Is it for startups or is it for the investors? In this case, it's for the startups, because what we want to do is to provide you with financing to be able to help you scale, to be able to help you test your business, and also to be able to allow these VCs support you more robustly, because they do not want to lose their investment. But we are saying our aim is to achieve or to increase the number of businesses that thrive in Africa. So we will bring a certain amount of money to de-risk on your behalf and encourage the VCs to come in as also middle players to see how we can be able to scale your business. Then lastly, so just so I can be able to wrap up, is the question around Center of Excellence. Is UNDP willing to work with already existing centers of excellence? Of course, because remember I had mentioned that we are strengthening an already existing fragmented ecosystem. We are not coming to this. I had mentioned that we are taking a disruptive step, but I was very careful to also mention that it is in the positive light. And what I mean by that is we are telling you that there is an ecosystem that is fragmented, and we are willing to strengthen that ecosystem by collaborating, by building partnerships. We don't want to set up another new big groundbreaking innovation without recognizing or even building alliances with already existing players. So I think this brings me to the end of the answers for the questions that I have received. I would hand it over to my colleague Nozipo, and also to Google to make some additions to what we have just said. Thank you so much.
Nozi, can
there is a question in the question box, so we like to take, I don't know whether we can take Charlie, and then right after you can respond to the question in the question box, which goes to Nisofo.
Bananos, thank you. Bananos,
Yeah.
let Komi ask his question, and the UNDP team will run the question and answer session. So
Okay.
just let Komi go ahead with what he's going to say, and just and then we will take it from there. Komi, please, over to you. Thank you.
Thanks. So I think we are running out of time. There are a few questions indeed, and we want to maybe give another opportunity later during we discuss with YALDA to have a dedicated session on Timbuktu. We know Timbuktu is quite important. So let's now maybe in the 15 minutes respond also to the questions around the liberalization scheme, which also is quite important. I think there was a question here by Mocholo from Lesotho on a dispute resolution mechanism. I think a problem. I know both Nozi and Google mentioned issue about disputes. So the question is, do we need to have a bilateral investment treaty between the trading partners under the AfCFTA? That was one question to address those issues. Secondly, when a regional trade area such as SACU, for example, has its own terms of trade in goods and services, so how does it affect trading under AfCFTA for certain goods and services protected under SACU? So another question was, what are the requirements certification needed for benefits of AfCFTA during the intra-African trade, and how are these, how can one get this requirement certification around information around the AfCFTA? So I don't know if Google, you want to also come in later and take the one around, you mentioned the issue of disputes. Why did you pull back and not try to find a way to resolve them? Thanks.
Let me jump in here. I'll be very honest, guys. We are currently in three active lawsuits in South Africa, because that's my country of jurisdiction, and that's where our contracts were under the jurisdiction, with clients in Kenya and Uganda. So what we first did is in our contracts, we had put in a stipulation to go underneath arbitration first, which one is faster, but unfortunately is more expensive. So the experience that I had, I think the center that we went under is AfSA, which is the Arbitration Foundation of Southern Africa. I'm sure some of you may be a bit familiar with that. Is one, getting a person who understood intra-African trade, who could mediate intra-African trade was close to impossible. I think we waited about a month to just be given a mediator. As you can imagine, time is money. So if you're waiting for a month, just be allocated someone who has just knowledge of what could be happening is a hassle, right? And then two, you quickly realize that the person who has been allocated to you has not exactly conducted business in Africa for the past 15 years. So they are presiding over a matter of which they have no understanding. I'm not even talking about recent understanding, just understanding of. So you realize that we're outsourcing a lot of the arbitration centers to Europe, which I think for me is, it just doesn't make sense. So now the second option that we're currently now going through is that we're now going to the High Court of South Africa to now get the CETA matter head in front of the High Court in South Africa, and then take my judgment, should it be in my favor, right, back to Uganda and Kenya. As you guys can imagine, what does that cost look like, right? My only benefit is that I'm stubborn and I'm running a fintech, so I'm willing to dedicate money for legal services. But what about the person who's conducting business underneath $1,000 US? You'll give up, right? There is nothing in Africa right now that, I'll be very honest, is targeted towards someone who's conducting trade in Africa and has run into a problem. I think that's one of the things that there's a protocol underneath the AfCFTA. I think it's a dispute mechanism. I'm well aware that it's targeted at governments, but we'll be honest, guys, the private sector is the one that conducts business. And I don't think we're being loud enough about it to say, when things hit the fan, what energy, who's the one presiding over it, right? Because I'll be honest, I don't think that the South African government will say, oh, you know, it's $100,000 US. You know, anything maybe above millions is when they'll start taking an interest. So I think that's something that we need to really start taking more of an interest in. I'm hoping that it can maybe come up as an annexure to the current protocol, because without that, I'll be honest, we're all going to lose money. There'll be no point then. That's my two cents. I hope there's someone in the room that could have an answer or an ear to the AfCFTA concerning that. And then I think just coming back to your earlier question, Nozipo, concerning, I think you're saying, Guti, what can we do in order to try and share costs, share partnerships, as well as allow people to scale? So one of the things that I have noticed that I've done is, I think I'm one of the, no, I recently got inducted into the African Youth Business Council as the Southern representative of Africa. So guys, if you're part of Southern Africa, I don't want to say SADC, but Southern Africa, and you'd like to kind of further your agenda in business, please hit me up. I think you can find me on LinkedIn. It's the easiest way to find me, Google it to see so. But these are one of the things that I've just started taking into my own hands, because I've realized that expecting someone else to care about my business the way I do won't happen. No one cares about you, right? So I've started saying that, okay, cool, I want to expand across Southern Africa, because I realize it makes a bit more sense instead of jumping across the whole of Africa and then deciding to come back. Let me find an association that shares the same values, which is very important, and has got the same singular goal as I do, which is conducting business, right? Because you quickly realize that people do not have the same motives that you do. I can say that Nozipo and I want the same goal, but it's not, right? And which is how frustrations end up happening. So I'd say just literally find your own tribe and your own tribe of people who are serious. I think one of the things that we're facing in entrepreneurship, especially within the early stage, is pitchpreneurs, where someone is always pitching, but then you're like, my bro, it's been 3 years. What have you really done? You've got like maybe 100,000 in grants, but you've done nothing. These are not the people to be talking to. But you talk to someone, even if they've raised nothing, but they're doing something, those are the people that you need to start talking to. So I'd say it's the partnerships well and fine, but it's really finding those people that really speak your language and speaking to them so that you better yourself, because no one will truly do it for you. I think those are my 2 cents concerning those 2 particular topics. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Gugu. And then coming back to you, Gomi, can you tell us more about the synergies for liberalization for trade and services? For instance, maybe the healthcare sector. Under the AfCFTA, are there any efforts maybe to establish common licensing standards? If I'm a doctor and want to maybe operate within a different region other than maybe Southern Africa, can I maybe, provide my services in East Africa as a doctor? And if not, what are the procedures then? And are there any efforts maybe to harmonize regulations?
Yeah, thanks. So I think these are, let me clarify a bit more in the sense that currently countries have so many restrictions vis-a-vis how, as professional service provider, the example you gave, doctor, you are not allowed, for instance, if you get your grade, maybe graduate as a doctor, medical doctor, for example, in Kenya, you might not be allowed to just go and exercise your function in Togo or in Ghana because there is no agreement between the two countries. Now, what then countries are doing under the AfCFTA, and which is quite important, is that some countries are now going to deliberately open some of their markets for professional services. Depends on which kind of professional service they want to open. That now allow you as doctor maybe to come in. There is also issue of mutual recognition. If, for instance, both Kenya and Ghana have mutual recognition agreements when it comes to maybe this specific service delivery, then mutually they can accept each other's service provider. I think on the issue now, when you come, for instance, the issue of complementarity between agreement, when you look at SACU, the 5 countries of SACU, they have their own zone of the way they decide to liberalize goods and services. AfCFTA is also liberalizing goods and services with some specific rules. So as an entrepreneur, you can decide to operate under the SACU free trade agreement or the AfCFTA free trade agreement. So you have choice. So depending on the scheme, the mechanism, the agreement under which you want to perform, then you have to go to the focal point. When it's come to, most of the time it's Ministry of Trade, that then will tell you what are the requirements if you want to trade in services vis-a-vis SACU market or vis-a-vis AfCFTA market.
Thank you for that, Komi. Can I take another hand, please, from Charlie? Charlie, are you there? I think Charlie might not be hearing me. Is there another hand that I can take as the last hand? Noting also that Komi said will allow to have an additional session through the help of YALDA to focus more on these various issues, and particularly the questions that we weren't able to address in this session. So I have a question in the chat box by Ngube saying, what are the intentional steps that are taken to mitigate language barrier across countries, be it French, Portuguese, English, Arabic speaking countries, etc. Gomi?
Nosy, I think you have been trading across country. So there is no specific provision under the AfCFTA. Yeah. So, but I will let Nosy, what do you think? What is your thinking? But we have to all learn. Yeah.
Yeah. My thinking on this is that obviously language barrier could be a challenge, and not could be a challenge, is a challenge, and has been for me particularly. I think then this is the opportunity for us to say, what would be the potential solutions around this in order for us to be able to actually trade amongst each other, because there are these particular languages that are spoken within different regions in Africa. So what are the intentional steps? I think you and I, Ngube, would have to figure that out. Do you maybe want to unmute and give us any suggestions?
Good evening, everyone. Okay.
Go ahead.
Am I? Okay. Thank you very much. I really would like to applaud everyone who is participating here, especially to seeing that the youth of Africa, they are taking things into control. Like we're not just getting just some vision 2063, and then we have to wait. So we're putting things into perspective. Well, when it comes to language, it's just not because I'm coming from Swahili-speaking country, But I think we do have Kiswahili, which has been, approved by UNESCO as a language that is going to introduce Africa in the global market. And as we speak now, we have more than 2 million people, 200 million people globally that can speak Kiswahili. And in Africa, we have more than 15 countries already speak Kiswahili. And there's a lot of countries that are now showing interest to enroll Kiswahili as their national language or language in their curriculums and things like that. So I would like to see how can I be, can I participate? Like we have to become solution here. So we do have an initiative called Swahili Africa. So we are there to support any initiative, any institution that would like to get more information about Kiswahili, and if they want to train their people about Kiswahili, or they want to get more information, or they want to translate, because there's quite a lot of opportunity that comes with the Africa Common Language, apart from controlling the language barrier, because if I have my product, I'm from Cameroon, and I'm going to sell them in East Africa, I'm speaking French. In East Africa, they speak Kiswahili, which is good. And then the translation has to be in English. So it's quite a lot, a challenge. So with Kiswahili, I just want people to know it's a lingua franca. It's not a language that belongs to any ethnic group. It started, yes, in East Africa, but it's a language is most spoken globally. We have BBC Kiswahili, we have Radio Deutsche Welle in Germany Kiswahili, we have Voice of America Kiswahili. So the global community has invested a lot on Kiswahili because they know if we have a common language, it's going to be easier for us to transact. So not to give too much on the Kiswahili, I'm just open up and say we as Swahili Africa, we are an organization registered, would like to partner with you guys and see how we can support when it comes to enroll the entrepreneurs when they are training for, when you do capacity development or enterprise development, we can have Kiswahili as a subject. And we do have free Kiswahili lessons every single Saturday. So, but we don't do individual training, we do a group. So it's with your organization, you say we are inviting your organization to take advantage of our classes. And then we can further the conversation because it's beyond that. So Kiswahili is used as at AU as a, yeah.
Unfortunately, we are over time now. So what I'm going to ask you, please drop maybe the website of your organization, and then those who are interested can take it further. And then maybe you can just also drop me a message, and then we can continue and see how we can continue this conversation.
Yeah, I'm just going to drop my contacts there.
That was very informative. Thank you. I'd like to say thank you for everyone who has joined us tonight in the session. I hope it was as informative to you as it was to me. I believe I also got to learn, and we're always learning. We are lifelong students at this. I'd like to give the floor to my colleagues, 1 minute, Lillian, and 1 minute to Gugu, to just say their parting words, and then I'll also give 1 minute to Gomi, and we can wrap it up for the evening. Lillian, you can go ahead.
Thank you so much, Nazipo, and thank you very much, colleagues, friends, and intending entrepreneurs for listening in during these sections. For me personally, it's been very impactful. I had some learnings, of course, during these sections, and of course, some questions that are beginning to turn up for me to focus more on and see how we can, through Timbuk, to provide the support that is needed in this space. So I'm looking forward to engaging with most of you, and I would like to give you my best wishes on your ongoing adventures and interventions that you're trying to bring on board. So thank you from my side, and it was great meeting the planning committee for this lecture series and also the speakers as well. Thank you so much, Komi, for the opportunity, Nozipo, as well as Google. It was really great having these discussions.
Thank you. Gugu?
Awesome. This was an enjoyable chat. I think I enjoyed getting a vibe of the questions that were being sent over the screen as well as through the chats. You can kind of get the energy that people are serious about expanding. So that's good to see. I'm hoping that my story made sense to people. It is one that sunk in. I think one of the worst things is someone repeating a mistake that someone else has done. Unfortunately, there's truly nothing new underneath the sun. So if there's one thing that you could at least have picked up from my story is that let's nurture the dream of expansion, but truly let's be pragmatic about how we do it. Even if you don't have money, talk to people and at least make the most informed decision that you can, so that you don't end up spending money as well as emotional money later down the road. However, Aluta AfCFTA, I'm still pushing. As said, guys, please reach out to me on LinkedIn. Let's chat and see how we can push each other forward. Thanks.
Thank you, Gugu. Komi?
From my end, just to say thanks to everyone, and of course, to the fantastic YALDA team that has consistently been delivering this training and capacity. And I hope, colleagues, as you are online, when the youth from the continent reach out to you for further advice, whether Nozipo, Lillian, Gugu, I hope you will take your time to respond to them. But thanks, Bananos, thanks, Laone, for the great partnership. Thanks.
Sure. Thank you very much, to echo my colleagues' words, for the opportunity and for the time. And like Gugu said, it's encouraging to actually see the amount of people present. It speaks to the seriousness, the eagerness actually, to take what we're doing further and leverage off of what is given to us already. So I look forward to engaging you all. I will drop my details in the chat box, and have a lovely evening and be safe. And last but not least, thank you to the YALDA team for their efforts and their hard work. Thank you.
So thank you very much. We like to express immense gratitude to our presenters for the wonderful presentation. It was very informative. And so thanks as well to all of our participants for coming. We do appreciate, and thanks to YALDA and everyone who participated today. Thank you very much. May God bless you all.